You would think some of these things are common sense, but some people are idiots. So I'm here to tell you. Hi guys, I'm Katie and welcome back to Busan Basics, where I tell you what it's like living in Busan, South Korea. So it's been a hot minute since I've had one of these like sit down and talk to the camera about stuff videos, and that is mostly because I am awkward and doing this does not come naturally. But you guys seem to really like these videos, or maybe you guys just really like Julia. If that's the case, don't tell me.
Don't do it. Don't do it.
My ego cannot handle it. I'm here to give you another advice, information, I don't know what you call this, video. So today's topic is tips for new teachers. So you passed the interview, you got all your documents, you're in Korea. Now what? So I have about 10 tips for all new teachers who just came in Korea. A lot of these tips are directed at EPIC teachers, but it can work for Hagwon teachers, or if you're in another country teaching as well. So why should you listen to me? Good question, actually. I've lived in Korea for 3 years. I lived in Japan for 2.5 teaching. I was a teacher in America. In Korea, I've had over... I've had about 20 co-teachers, and I haven't really had issues with any of them except for one, but I don't know if she was being passive aggressive or if that was just her English. To this day, I have no idea. But here are the tips that I have for you. So none of these tips are in any particular order except for tip number 1. So tip number 1, so if you don't do this tip, none of the other tips are gonna matter. So tip number 1 is take this job seriously. Okay, this is a job. I know most people come here not wanting to be teachers, not caring about being a teacher. They just want to come to Korea and travel, and that's totally okay. But you do need to realize that this is a job. You are a teacher and you need to take this job seriously. If you don't, your co-teachers are gonna know, your students are gonna know, and they're not gonna respect you, and that's gonna make your time teaching a lot more difficult. So honestly, just put in like minimal effort, and you'll be fine. Tip number 2. You really want to make a good impression on your co-teachers because those are the people you're going to be working with. They can make your life a living hell 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. So you really want to make a good impression on them. And it's honestly like not that hard. I feel like most Korean English teachers have been traumatized by shitty English teachers that if you just do like the bare minimum, they're like, oh my God, this person's awesome. And by bare minimum, I mean like smile. You don't have to be an overly smiley person, but when you see your co-teacher or any teacher, smile at them, say hello. It goes a long way if you see a teacher and you go, 안녕하세요. Like they're like, oh shit, they're trying Korean, yes. Okay, offer to help. Say, hey, I have some free time. Do you want me to do this? If they ask you, hey, can you look over this test? Or hey, can you check this for me? Do it. Don't sit there and go, okay. No, just freaking do it because it's your job. And yeah, I mean, I don't know what else to say about that. Tip number 2 is dress appropriately. You would think that this is like common sense. My advice to you is dress professionally and kind of like overdress a little bit and then see what the other teachers are wearing, and then you can kind of tone it down from there. Just like use common sense. Don't do this, don't do that, don't do this, and don't do that. Also, like sometimes a co-teacher is not gonna tell you if you're dressed inappropriately. Like I know in my school, there was this music teacher. So she was a Korean teacher and she would wear like this really short skirt. And no one said anything to her, but they all talk shit behind her back and would say stuff to me like, how could she wear that? That's so inappropriate, blah, blah, blah. So sometimes they're not gonna say stuff to you, but they're thinking it. So just use your common sense and be like, is this okay? If it's questionable, take a picture of it, don't wear it, but show the picture to your co-teacher and be like, hey, would it be cool if I wore this to school? Like, that's a lot safer than just like showing up in a mini skirt and hoping for the best. Tip number 4. try to have your lessons done like a week in advance. So I know this is going to be hard at first, especially for new teachers, because lesson planning might take you like an hour or two per class. But once you get in like the rhythm of it, you'll be able to bang them out like boom, boom, boom. And it's good to do it at least a week in advance, because then you can actually email your co-teacher and say, hey, this is what I did. Is this what you're looking for? One, that shows like you respect your co-teacher's opinion, which goes into making a good impression. And then two, if they don't like it, you have time to change it. This has happened to so many of my friends where they're in the middle of a lesson and their co-teacher has been like, I don't like this. You need to change it. And they're expected to change it like on the spot. That's really rude of the co-teacher, but it does happen and it's not rare. So do yourself a favor, email them in advance, be like, hey, this is my lesson. Let me know if I should change anything. And then if they don't change anything, then if they do that to you in the middle of the lesson, you can turn around and be like, well, why didn't you tell me to change it then? This kind of goes into my next tip, which is waygook.com. So waygook.com is a website where you can find all these lesson plans that people have posted. It's $20 for 1 year, but trust me, it is so worth it. No, I'm not sponsored by them. I know it might sound like it, but as someone who has a teaching degree and who has taught before coming to Korea, I used waygook.com. Because sometimes, you know, like you have to do a certain lesson and you just can't think of an activity, or you can't think of a game, or you're just lazy. They have such good material on there. It's just worth it to use. Like, I'm really bad at making PowerPoint games. They take forever to make. Waygook.com has like a whole tab just for PowerPoint games, and you can just download like 10 different ones and then switch them out with your lessons and change it so it coincides with your lesson. That being said, don't just be super lazy and just download random ones, because each teacher has their own style, and your students and your co-teachers are going to realize that each week is a different style, and it might even be harder for you to teach it if your style and whoever posted that lesson style are just very different. If you use a lesson, I highly suggest like downloading it and changing it to fit your style. Which that also kind of brings me into my next tip, and that is create a routine in your classroom. When you make lessons, you are going to get into a routine. Like for me, I always start the lesson off with the key expressions, and I do that for every single lesson. And when you have that routine, the students know what to expect, and it makes it easier for them and it makes it easier for you. Another tip for when you're actually teaching, and this is so important and something like a lot of new teachers don't think about, and it's you really need to keep in mind your speaking speed, because your natural speed is going to be way too fast for most of your students. And a lot of teachers, you don't think about it because you're just talking and you think like, yeah, I'm talking and they're understanding. No, you need to slow your speed down. And you need to always remind yourself to slow your speed down, because you might start off slow in the beginning, and then as you're like getting into a rhythm, you're gonna speed up naturally. So you just need to keep that in mind. And you can even ask your co-teacher, like, how was my speed? And they'll tell you, they'll be like, it was too fast, or no, your speed was fine. But that is really important, because if you're speaking too fast, they're not gonna understand you. And then what's the point? Another tip for like while you're teaching, and that is use hand gestures, but use them mindfully. Like when I talk, I do this, this, and this, but when I'm teaching, I don't do that. But I do use hand gestures. Like if I want them to repeat, I'll say, let's repeat. But then when I'm talking, I do this. And then when I want them to talk, I do this. So even if they don't know the word repeat, they know this means to repeat. This is especially important if you have younger kids, because their English level is so low. But if you use the same hand gestures for the same thing, they're gonna catch on, and that's gonna be helpful. Like I have middle school students and I still use hand gestures. Honestly, I don't even know what tip I'm on right now. So tip, have backup games. So sometimes you'll walk into school and your co-teacher is going to be like, hey, we just had a test last week, so I want you to just play a game with them. Or, hey, I don't really like this lesson, can you change it? And it'll be like 20 minutes before you have to start. Having these games, which you can download on waygoog.com, having these games are so helpful because you literally, if you have it, you can just change out the information if it's like a question game or something, and then just play it. Or I have like a riddle race game, which is just a filler game. It takes the whole class period and it's so low prep. I download the riddles, cut them out, split the kids into groups. Whichever group solves all the riddles first wins. So having these backup games can really, really help you in these like last minute situations. And then my last tip is learn to go with the flow. Korea is known as like pali culture, and that means like quickly. They're quickly changing. Even with teaching, you'll walk into school sometimes and your co-teacher will be like, yeah, we're not doing this. I want you to make a whole new lesson. Or we're changing it up, or the class schedule has changed. And this has happened to me. This literally happened to me this week, where my co-teacher walked in, sat down and was like, hey, I know you made a lesson for lesson 5, but that's not on their test, so we're not gonna do that. So can you do a review with them? And it was like 20 minutes before class. And I was just like, sure. So I had to like quickly make a lesson. So those moments are gonna happen. They're not gonna happen every day, but they are gonna happen more than just once in a blue moon. So you just kind of gotta like go with the flow and just kind of like breathe and then just do what you gotta do. If the lesson sucks, like it sucks and you learn from that and you just move on. So yeah, those are my, I think, 10 tips that I have for you guys. Let me know in the comments down below if you like these kind of videos, and if not, tell me, what do you want? What do you want? What do you want?
What do you want?
Let me know, because I want to make videos that you want to watch. So I'll see you guys next time. Bye.